So the only general announcement I have is that coming up, well, it's a little ways down the road still, but somewhere around week 12 or 13, they've allowed us an opportunity to let students retake an exam of their choice. So I like to put that out there early, so as people are taking the exams, that they can sort of think, oh, this might be the one that I want to retake. And when they do, if you do that retake, in essence, what it does is it just the retake or the original score, whichever is higher, stands. And so we couldn't talk them into like just dropping one exam score. So I think this was like their
compromise.
Their compromise was like, okay, well, people can pick one and retake it. So
does it have to be an accounting test?
You could retake an exam from a different class, you mean? Or
I did great in history. If I could take a history one.
Right. Sorry. No,
Dang.
It's interesting when I talk to the, so because most of us that are instructors are adjunct, meaning we're not stationed at the mothership. They're kind of in control of the content of the course, which makes sense to me. But so if we want to like add something like that, we have to kind of get the approval. And I know one time I talked to him and I said, look, these exams are killing people. They're really tough. And his response to me was like, hey, look, the course is structured so the person could fail every test and still pass the class with a C. So what more do you want from us? And I was like, oh, well, okay, well,
I have a B.
Like, I get what you're saying, but I don't know what else.
Yeah.
I get what he's saying, right? Is that the exam is a measure of how of an attainment of knowledge, so to speak. But I also know that there's students who have the content pretty good, but the exam is still really hard for them. Just the structure of the exam feels different.
I don't think the book is very good.
Really, I think it's like I've worked with a number of books. I think it's a decent book. I mean,
it's decent, but I just, if all you do is read the book, I don't know if it just, for me, maybe it's just me. I don't feel like it gives enough examples, or like a lot of the tests and quiz questions are different enough from the examples in the book that it kind of opens you up to mistakes. And I don't know, maybe it's me, but
right. It's possible that different styles of books appeal to different styles of learning. And what's hard in an online class is you don't get that. My students in a face-to-face class would get an hour of lecture to start. Well, not quite an hour. We try to do some examples too. They'd get an hour of lecture, and then they get an hour of me working out a problem with them. And the replacement in this class is that you can, is this, and then the assignment problem worked out by one of the other students that I try to at least go in and double check and make sure they're not leading you completely astray. And most of the time they're pretty good. Like, people do a decent job on those. Anyway, yeah, I don't mean to always start the class with a gripe session about
a downer.
Yeah. I'm about happiness and joy and accounting, and I guess those things are not mutually exclusive.
Let me go fix my grandson. I'll be right back.
You're gonna fix him?
And Walt Disney.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Walt Disney. Yeah, I had a student today telling me they're going to Disneyland this weekend, and I'm like, have fun. It's gonna cost you $1,200. I hope it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I know people that love it and they go over and over. So I think I'm just the humbug. So, and I'm okay with that.
What is it? What's the term in economics? The
opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost. Yeah, that is not in my opportunity cost.
Yeah, but for people who really love it, it's worth it, right? And I for the cost of going to Disney, I could go on a cruise. We're back on Disney again. Sorry, Diane. And so for me, I've really enjoyed when we go on cruises with our kids, and now our grandkids are going to start getting old enough to do that. But like I said, people who love the theme parks, it's a great thing. They consider that a value for them. All right, so I've got a little brief slideshow demonstration, whatever, to show you. We'll see. Sorry, you see this take a look at all of my, that's a mess, sorry. Let me, oh, actually I'm not shared, so you don't get to see all my mess. Let's see. And then, or am I shared? There we go. So this chapter is about cash management, and you know, cash management is just what it sounds like. In essence, don't deal with cash, and you'll be happier as a business owner, and your accountant will certainly be happier. While it's kind of convenient to use cash for certain things, it's really hard to track as people spend it. And so the recommendation from a cash control standpoint is that you write checks for everything and deposit all money you receive into a checking account. Um, and and so a big feature in managing cash and making sure money's not going missing is to reconcile your bank statement monthly. What's interesting about bank statements and statement reconciliation is we have a whole new generation of accounting students who many of them have never seen a paper bank statement. Whereas I grew up, my mother taught me how to reconcile my bank statement. There was like a little worksheet on the back of the bank statement, and I would use that to reconcile it. I know, fun times in our house. But most of our younger students, what they do is they either just have their phone set up to give them a balance. So my kids, like, if they spend money on their debit card, they get a text that says this money was taken out of your account, and here's the balance of your account. And they don't ever write checks. I've seen that even at the church, that the number of paper checks and cash we're getting as donations has dropped radically, and probably 2/3 of our donations are happening online now. And when somebody spends money at church and then it gets reimbursed, we're paying about half of those out electronically now without writing a paper check. So, but we still have to know how to reconcile a bank account, bank statement, because even if you're doing it electronically, you've got to make sure what you show coming in is also what you show going out. Programs like QuickBooks, they have like automatic reconciliation features that I'm still like dubious of. Like, I don't fully trust them. I feel like I'm missing things, so I usually go back and check anyway. So for those of you out there in viewing land, this is what a bank statement looks like, generally speaking. Some of the important features is the closing date, and then usually the balance at the last statement and the balance at this statement. That means the balance as of the closing date, and then a list of transactions. And those transactions will be either things that you have already recorded in your book. So if you write a check, you record that in your company's books. Or if you receive money from a customer, you usually record that in your book and then make the deposit in your bank. But sometimes there'll also be things in your bank statement which are things that are not yet recorded in your books. Things like service charges that the bank is charging you, or sometimes people have a bank collect money on their behalf, or conversely, automatic bills that get paid straight out of your account, and you don't really have them recorded until you get the statement. So there'll be both things that are already in your books and things that are not in your books. And when you reconcile your bank statement to your cash account, you'll have to record those items that were not yet in your books. So that's part of the process. Okay, so the challenge with keeping our bank account or our cash account straight with our bank account is recognizing that there are time lags. So if I deposit money in my bank account, sometimes it takes a day or two to actually get recorded in the account, especially if I use the bank drop on the weekend or something like that. So if I have sales on a Saturday and I record them in my book and then put them in my bank bag and go drop them in the night drop Saturday night, they may not show up until Monday or Tuesday in my account. So if the banking period ends, say on Sunday, and I get a statement, that amount that I've deposited will be showing on my books, but won't be showing on my bank statement. So I'll have to account for that. The same with outstanding checks. I'll write checks to people, and mail them out or hand them to the people I need to. And they don't always deposit those right away. And so it can take time for a check that I write to clear my account. And so sometimes checks that I will show on my book, I've already recorded them in my book, are not showing up on the bank statement yet. The opposite of that is we can have bank memoranda, meaning when we get the statement, we'll see that the bank collected some money for us or charged us a service fee or that we earned interest on our account. Those are things that we don't have in our books yet, but we're going to have to record them in our books now and account for those during the reconciliation. And then sometimes there's an error, like you'll get your bank statement and compare it with the check you wrote and realize that you wrote it down wrong in the book, or conversely, that you wrote it down absolutely correctly, but it got recorded wrong by the bank. So we've got to account for all those things in a reconciliation. So the process is to reconcile our bank statement balance with our book balance. And so what we do is we take our balance, it says per the bank statement, meaning what the bank statement says it should be, and we make adjustments for any deposits in transit. Those would be increases. And for any outstanding checks, those would be decreases. And then plus or minus for bank errors, depending on what those errors are. And after we make those, I don't call it the correct balance, I call it the adjusted bank balance. Then we make adjustments to our book balance for any collections or deposits that are on the bank statement that we didn't have before. For any bounced checks, meaning if a customer wrote us a check and it was insufficient, then we're going to have to subtract that money back out of our account because the customer's account didn't pay. Any service charges or any company errors we've made. And so then I'll have a adjusted bank balance and an adjusted book balance, and they should match each other. So that's the process. So let me walk you through an example of how to do that. And by the way, if either of the two of you have a question, don't be afraid to jump in and ask it. I'm not just trying to give you a lecture here, but maybe as we do the example, some questions will come up. So here we have the bank statement of the Laird Company, shows a balance per their bank statement of $15,907.45. On this date, the balance in their book shows $11,709.45. So we need to reconcile this account to make sure that after we do adjustments, they match each other. So here's some of the items they have. They have a deposit in transit, which means something that they've written down in their books, but it's not showing up on the bank statement yet, of $2201.40. They have outstanding checks. Again, checks they've recorded in their books but are not showing up on the statement yet, of $5904. Also, it looks like there was a deposit made, let's say an unrecorded electronic receipt from a customer on account on April 9th, determined from the bank statement. So that happens sometimes when people will make like a note and they'll just have the bank act as the transfer agent. People just send their payment to the bank and the bank just deposits it in their account. And anymore with a lot of electronic payment type options, that happens with me. A lot of my customers, I send them an invoice, they click on it and then pay with their credit card, and it just gets deposited in my account.
Oh, okay. Because when I was doing this today,
Mm-hmm.
and it was talking about notes, well, usually when I think of a note, it's a note that you got from the bank that you owe them money.
Right.
So it was really confusing. So
Right.
So I understand that now, that sometimes I see how that works electronically now, that's the reason why the bank collects it for you, is because you give your customer your information to put in your banking account.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and more with things like Venmo and PayPal, they make it easier and easier for people to just pay you electronically.
Right, right. But I didn't understand how that worked with the bank, because it kept saying that the bank collected it for you.
Right.
But now that makes sense when you say the customer was able to put it straight into the bank.
Right.
So good. Thank you. That's
okay,
helpful.
Good. And then other payments, it looks like there was a return check, NSF 425.60. There was credit and debit fees of 120, bank service charges. See, the bank's getting theirs. And then a company error. It looks like check number 443 was written for 1226 and correctly paid by the bank, but when we were checking it against our books, we had written it in our book as 1262. So someone in the accounting department is going to get yelled at, but we can correct it. So not too big of a deal. All right. So here's how we would actually prepare the bank reconciliation. We'd start with the cash balance on our bank statement. We would add the deposits in transit, subtract the outstanding checks, and that would give us the adjusted cash balance per bank or per the bank statement. Then we would start with the cash balance per our book, add in the increase, so the electronic funds transfer received, correct for that error, subtract out the NSF check, the debit card fee, the bank service charge, and that would be our adjusted cash balance per the books. And they should balance. And if they don't, then you did something wrong. But even though that's kind of a pain, it's a nice check before I hit submit and get a grade for it to know it's got a balance, or else something ain't right. And I'm tired of what ain't right. I think that was my best Silverado quote of the day. All right. So after, oh, sorry, I just got a message. I have a son who's in a hospital in Tennessee. He was in a car accident on his mission. And so he's sick of being in the hospital. Today is the 27th day he's been in the hospital, and he just texted to say, hey, it's the first day I haven't had a nurse come in and ask me if I know what's good for back pain. So he had a surgery on his back on Friday. So he gets fed up sometimes with people asking him dumb questions, even though it's their job.
My husband is out in Tennessee right now. Does he need something?
Oh no, my wife is there.
And okay.
Yeah, he's in Knoxville. Yeah, it was a serious accident. That it was a member was driving them to transfers, and they got in an accident exiting the freeway. The member was killed, and then my son had he lost his spleen and his kidney, broke his back and his leg. So it was a pretty serious accident. Fractured his skull, ribs. I mean, it was a really rough one. And then the companion sitting in the front seat just got some abrasions from the airbag and was fine. And you know how it was a pretty serious thing. Anyway, I didn't mean to get on that tangent. I apologize.
We'll keep him in our prayers.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't bring up my personal stuff.
Sorry, we're here to work it out together.
Yeah. Thanks. No, I mean, now, like I said, it's been almost a month, and so I was able to go for the first couple of weeks, but I had to get home. We have other kids here at home, and so my wife is there, and I'm here, and he's improving every day. But the surgery on Friday set him back again, and he's just tired of being in the hospital at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, there's one way to get released from your mission. Get busted up so bad that the recovery will take too long to stay. But he's in pretty good spirits, and we've had a good relationship with the family of the brother who was driving him. Really great guy. I mean, he would take one day off a week to take the missionaries around with all their appointments. An older guy who would his wife has dementia. He'd take her over to the sisters, so she's staying with her son, and it's I think as good as things can be, they're working out. It's still pretty tough though.
Sometimes it's hard to figure out Heavenly Father's plan for us.
It is. Anyway, okay. So sorry about that. That I didn't mean to bring my personal situation into it. So this is the bank reconciliation. I just went through the process a second ago. So now what we have to do is recognize that these entries that are changes to the books, we're going to have to do journal entries to record them in our books. So we'll have to do the bank reconciliation. Oh, sorry. So that's what it's telling us here. So the collection of the electronic funds transfer payment by the customer, our cash goes up, our accounts receivable goes down. That's our journal entry. Whoops. Let's see. To correct the book error, we have to, we're going to show our cash increasing and our accounts payable decreasing. Okay. If the book error had been in the other direction, of course, we would have to change that the other way. But that's what it was. We had written it for showing $36 more cash out of the account than should have been. So we're adding that back in. For the NSF check, again, that means like a bounce check or non-sufficient funds. What we do is we record that back to accounts receivable, meaning that customer that had paid us before now owes us the money again, and our cash goes down. Because when we'd received the check, what we had done is we'd recorded our cash going up and our accounts receivable going down. So we have to sort of reinstate that debt for the customer that they owe us. And then the bank charges, we would just do a bank charge expense and cash going down. And that's it. So really, the thing I guess to remember, I'm stopping sharing the screen. The thing to remember is just, you know, if you just follow that process, the reconciliation isn't usually too bad. You know, start with the balance per books, deposits in transit, add those in, outstanding checks, subtract those out, and then if there's any bank errors, you would adjust those there, and that gives you your adjusted bank balance. And then you start with your did I say bank? So your balance per the bank, add in deposits in transit, subtract out outstanding checks and any bank errors, and that's going to be your adjusted bank balance. Your book balance, you start with that book balance, you add in any money that was collected on behalf of you by the bank and subtract out any payments that went out on behalf of the bank or that there were bank service charges, and then would correct any book errors, and then those two should match, and that's your adjusted balance. Anyway, so that's the process that I wanted to go over and make sure it was clearer, at least, and hopefully it's not too bad. So at this stage, I guess, any questions?
I have a question on the quiz the exam that we took. So I will ask you that after class,
Okay.
after the closing prayer.
I was going to say, I haven't taken it, so don't say anything.
Yeah, that's why I
You're
said.
like, I haven't taken it, so talk away. You're like, I have a question on all 40 of those questions, and Mick's just going to sit here quietly.
Yeah. Probably if I did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I mean, then I guess we can end with a prayer, and then I can try to answer your questions, Diane.
Okay.
Are you good with that, Mick?
Yes, I'm good.
All right.
I can say closing prayer.
Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to Thee for the time we're able to spend together tonight and discuss the accounting process and the blessings that it is for our lives and our futures. Please bless us tonight that we can have Thy Spirit to be with us, and continue to bless us that we can learn and do the things that Thou would have us do. Please bless Brother Fox's son, that he can continue to heal from his surgery and from his injuries, and bless him that he can have a good recovery, and bless Brother Fox's family that they can be able to help in that healing process. Please bless us tonight with these things. In the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And thanks. Yeah, he's our fifth kid, so he's kind of one of our middle kids. And anyway, he's doing better and better. But yeah, I don't think he envisioned a month stay in the hospital the day they were setting out for transfers.
At that age, though, they heal up good. I've got a nephew that he had a bad car wreck. He slid on the ice, and he actually was ejected from the car, went through the windshield, and he's like 6'4", and this was like a Ford Taurus. So for his body just to be able to fly over that and out the windshield like he did, broke both of his femurs, had a pretty good head injury and other injuries. Today he's in the military. He's overseas deployed, and he's totally fine. So
yeah, no, I think that was the difference. You know, the guy driving him was 72, and he was 19. And when you get that lung trauma, chest trauma, broken lungs, broken chest, or broken ribs and collapsed lungs, they say older patients just struggle to recover from that in a way that a 19-year-old cross-country runner is going to. You know, it's just a difference in that your lung capacity. So anyway.
Well, let him
How
know
long,
there's easier ways to get out of a mission.
Yeah.
how long has he been out, Brother Fox?
He was out 15 months when the accident happened. So, so what they're telling him is, when you go back home, you're going to be released. If you want to apply to finish those last, what would that be, 9 months? You can do that, but you're under no obligation to. And I know he just, from his hospital bed, submitted his BYU application, so I think he's already kind of come to grips with it. It's just moving forward,
Yeah.
Although that would be the fall, so if he came out and finished, he would finish in the summer. And I don't know. We'll see how long it takes him to recover.
Yeah.
But it's, I told him, don't worry about that now. You'll have plenty of time to make that decision. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you. You too. Bye bye. Okay, Diane, just me and you.
Okay, great. Thank you. When I took the test, there was 2 problems. I mean, I missed 4, but number 20 had 2 different scenarios on it, and they were in different font.
Okay.
And it was asking me gross profit, and so I didn't, and I could have calculated it wrong, but it was just weird that it had 2 different companies.
Okay.
And several of my questions, the fonts were all messed up. So
Okay.
so I just like you to look at it for everybody and
Yeah.
for me if I answered the wrong set. And then,
Okay. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm still recording.
oh.
Let me stop recording.